Yup, that's me, walking out of prison for the first time in 17 years, and you can see it all over my face. I've been through hell. 2003, I was sentenced to 144 years in prison by the Commonwealth of Virginia. And to be honest with you, I'm not supposed to be free. I wasn't supposed to even be given the opportunity to tell this story. And before I get started, don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and most importantly, stay free. In 2003, I was sentenced to 144 years in prison in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And this is my story. I'm going to start telling it bit by bit, piece by piece. This is part one, if you will. Of course, I got to change a few things, protect some people, um, you know, stuff like that. But I will tell the story truthfully, honestly, regardless of how I feel, regardless of how you guys might look at me. This is for educational purposes. And if you have questions, put them in the chat. Y'all know what we do. Thank you for the support. So I want to bring y'all back to my childhood. I'm going to kind of fast forward that part and lead you up into the night of. Growing up, I had both parents. I was given up for adoption, but raised by two parents that adopted me in a black and Mexican household. People ask that. They're like, yo, what are you mixed with? I'm actually black and white, though. And everything was good until they weren't. Financial situations eventually caused a divorce amongst my parents. And with my father out the household, our living arrangements changed. We went from a house in a cul-de-sac to a townhouse to apartment to living in virtually the projects. And mom was trying. She really was. But again, with pops out the house and mom working two jobs to keep a roof over our head, I had plenty of time to explore. I was a good kid in school, great kid. Um, but I was also great in the streets. I could learn fast. I could adapt. I paid attention. I could get along with different types of people. And I started hanging out with a slightly older crowd who showed me how to hustle, how to get money. It was just the thing to do. It was like a rite of passage in Chicago. It is what it is. It's like that in most cities. I eventually, as time went by, I got in trouble in high school fighting. I had ADHD. I was too hyper and it just didn't keep my attention. I wasn't a bad student, very capable of learning, got good grades, but the teachers, they didn't provide the support I needed. And eventually, too many fights later, got kicked out and given the opportunity to go to a program called Lincoln's Challenge Program in Rantoul, Illinois. It's ran by the National Army or Army National Guard. And it's basically for like the worst kids, quote unquote, that they say in Illinois that can't go to school. When I graduated from that, I went into the Air Force, United States Air Force at 17. I had to get permission. My mother had to sign a permission slip. I went in. And at 17, being somebody got kicked out of high school, graduated military school. Now I'm in the military at 17. I'm by myself across the country with a car, money every week, no bills. I wasn't ready. I was not mature enough to be out there in the world. Though it was a great opportunity, I wasn't ready for it. And I was good on base, great at my job, but I started getting in trouble off base, messing with a lot of women, getting into fights, that sort of thing. Bounced a check, I think. I didn't get in trouble for it, but one of the stores called my first sergeant, um, things like that. And eventually they said, yo, you got to go. We're giving you a general discharge under honorable conditions. Nice to have you. Thank you for your service, but get on down the road. And I was angry at this point. And what made me even more angrier, not only did I have to go back home after having my own, home wasn't Chicago anymore. My mother had moved to Virginia. And I didn't know my family in Virginia. And all I knew it was slow out there. And it wasn't Chicago. Um, and when I moved out there with my mother, I got to also add into the fact she lived with my grandmother. And I had to share a room with my older cousin. My cousin was basically my only support system out there outside of my girlfriend, a couple of coworkers, etc. And we were cool. You know what I'm saying? We were all right. But we never really clicked. Him being 10 years older, I just wasn't into the things he was in. He used to watch mob movies and he actually liked the street life. I was actually trying to get out of it, which is weird. I was kind of fed up with getting in trouble. And with us living in the same room, he'd get off work. He was working from Hardee's. I remember he'd bring home food. We're eating burgers and just talking about, man, we got to make it out of here.
Like, this is not what's up. Living in grandma's house, sharing a room that's like the size of a prison cell. It was like a prelude to my life. And eventually he started making moves, and he didn't say anything to me, but he got his own spot. And one day he did. He came to me and he said, "Cuz, you know what I'm into?" I said, "No." I said, "But I know you're doing something. You got your own spot. You doing all right?" He said, "I was." He said, I'm in trouble though. I gotta make some money. I'm in debt. My rent, they're gonna evict me, blah, blah, blah." He's like, "I need you to take me and my homeboys up the street." I was like, "Man, I don't know about that, bruh." He's like, "Bro, you don't got to get out the car or nothing." I was like, "I don't know what y'all gonna get into." He's like, "Nobody's gonna get hurt." So I knew it was gonna be a crime, and I kind of, yeah, I did know it was gonna be a robbery. But once he said that, I was like, "Well, what are y'all gonna rob it with?" He's like, "It's not even a real pea shooter. It's a BB. It's a fake one." So I said, "Okay." And I remember the moment I said, "Okay," my gut, it turned, and I should have listened to my gut. But in my mind, I tried to justify like a lot of us do when we know we're doing something wrong. I said, "Well, it's not a real weapon. Nobody's going to be hurt. And I don't have to get out the truck. So even if we get in trouble, I should just get probation. I'll be okay. I'll learn from it." But I was still loyal to my family. This is how I justified it in my mind. And the night came like 2, 3 nights later. Picked him up. His homeboy, he sat shotgun. His homeboy's in the back. And we drove and we got there. And I drove a little bit off to the distance. They got out and they were back pretty quick. And I remember looking back because I could hear them kind of screaming. There was little money flying a little bit everywhere, nothing too crazy. And when they got in the truck, I just hit the gas and I was so scared. And I was like, I just want to get it over. I just want to get us to somewhere where we're safe, if there was a such thing. And I didn't have the headlights on. I'm whipping through the alley. Boom, I almost hit a car. We get home though, safe. We don't see no cops. I get back to my grandmother's, and the whole rest of the night, I'm looking out the window. I mean, I'm looking out the window. I'm freaked out because I know, like, I crossed the line that I'm not going to be able to uncross. And here we go. And the line was crossed forever. And that entire night I spent looking out my blinds, just like the ones behind me. Every car that drove by, I thought it was the cops. Every time I seen headlights against the wall, you know how it shines through the windows, I thought it was the cops. Every time I heard a sound, I thought it was the cops. I thought I was going to prison that night. I thought it was done, over with, paranoia, anxiety, all that. It was at an all-time high. I had never been in this situation. And this is when this is the moment I realized that I really didn't want to be in the streets. Like, I'm not about that life. But it was too late. And that's what happens to so many kids, teenagers between 16 to 19 right there. Man, they don't recognize until it's too late. I went from somebody that, yeah, he got in trouble in high school, but then he got an opportunity to get in the Air Force, but he messed that up. And now I made things worse. I could have turned it around. I didn't. So as I'm dealing with paranoia, the next day I remember my cousin called me. He's like, "Yo, what up? You good?" I was like, "Man, I'm all right. You know, I'm trying to play tough." I wasn't good, man. I couldn't wait to talk to him, but I wouldn't talk to him over the phone. I was like, "Man, I'm about to pull up now." I pulled up to his apartment, and I'll never forget it, man. I'll never forget this day. It was crazy. He told me we was gonna split 4 ways. I believed that. You know what I'm saying? He told me there was enough money to handle the business, do whatever he needed to do, and we was all gonna be good. I believed that. Let me tell you, man. He called me. I got in his apartment. We walked in his kitchen. Me, him, our two co-defendants. Pulled the money out. By the time he split that, I might have had 2,000. Somebody was asking a number. I might have had 2,000. I can't even remember the exact number. You feel me? $2,000? Really? I risked my life. I'm out here, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I'm being loyal to my cousin, but in hindsight, I look back, 2,000. That's work. That's a 9 to 5, easy. He gave me the money. I was mad. In my mind, I thought I was gonna get like 10,000, 20,000. I thought it was a big heist, but I should have known because the place that we hit, It wasn't built for that. There was no way there was going to be that amount of money in there. But again, I'm a 19-year-old kid that's really not about that life. Dabbled in it, but not to this level, and let somebody that really wasn't in it lead them into, a path of destruction. I'm going to say influence for those that say I made my own choice, because I did. Influence. Everybody got their money, they parted ways. Our two co-defendants, they got paranoid. They immediately shot down to Florida. And what's crazy is before they went down there to Florida, one of them had moved in with my cousin and his baby mom. And the baby too. And the cops got called by the neighbors because of a loud noise complaint. They were hearing music and the baby crying. So when the cops come and knock on the door, they hear or they smell smoky cabbage. All right. So now they smell that, gives them a reason to enter the dwelling, suspicion or whatever it is, legal substance. When they go in there and they're searching the apartment, my cousin and them boys kept the money bag. The money bag was on top of the kitchen cupboard. No, I was not there. I didn't know they had it. I found this out after the fact. This was what caused our co-defendants to run to Florida, because the detectives and all that, or the cops that came there, they didn't lock anybody up. They just found it to be suspicious. They didn't find any cabbage, anything like it. They smelt it. They handled the complaint. That was it. But they were like, why the heck would these people have a money bag, a blue money bag from a business? Mind you, them three had been hitting other spots I did not know about. This is why my cousin is in the situation he's in now. When they go to Florida, our two co-defendants, they ended up getting hit with a solicitation charge. They're outside of a store, homeless. They don't have nowhere to stay. They're trying to figure it out. They're just on the run because they don't want to be in Virginia and get locked up. They're scared. They end up getting locked up on something petty anyways and extradited back to Virginia. They immediately started cooperating. My cousin, he tried to rob a Chinese restaurant. I can't make this up. This is all public record, by the way. And when he went to go try to rob the Chinese restaurant, they beat him and they hogtied him. And the detectives took a picture of it. I seen the picture when the detectives came to my grandmother's house, Christmas Eve, 2002, to tell me this. They said, Mr. Willers, your future co-defendants have already been arrested. They're already talking. Your cousin is right here. They held up a picture, literally, of my cousin, hog-tied. They beat him in that restaurant where he tried to rob. He didn't even have a weapon. Never had a weapon. Anything he's been doing. He said, look at your cousin, man. He said, don't let nothing like this happen to you. I said, oh, you don't got to worry about that from me. He said, matter of fact, when you run, make sure you go somewhere warm so when we get you, we can take a vacation. I looked at him. I said, all right, man, whatever you say. Close the door. Try to act like my life was normal. There was a part of me in denial, believing for some reason there was still a chance I could get out of this. And no, I wasn't talking about cooperating. We'll talk more about that later. About a week or two went by, and I thought I was in the good. But what you guys need to know is courtrooms everywhere across America, they have something called grand jury indictments. And essentially, that's where they hold court without people in the courtroom. And they indict people. They issue indictments. And eventually my name came up because of my co-defendants cooperating. And eventually I found out my cousin was cooperating too. When my indictment came up, of course I didn't know. I was working at Walmart, tire and lube, changing tires. My mother worked there as a store manager. I was giving her a ride home one day after work. I was smoking a cigarette in Newport. She looked at me. She said, you got to stop smoking. I said, I will soon. We're on our way home to my grandma's house. And when we get there, we pull in the driveway. My grandma comes out. And she's like, oh, my God. She said, what did you do? I said, what are you talking about? She's like, the cops just left. The detectives just left. They tore up my house. They were looking for you. My heart sank. I knew this was the beginning of the end. I knew I had crossed the line I couldn't uncross. And I looked at my mom. And I just told her, let's go. I need you to take me to the police department. And a lot of y'all saying like, dang, you turned yourself in. Why would you do that? I didn't want to run. I was tired of paranoia. It weighed on me, and I was ready to face whatever I needed to face. So we stopped at 7-Eleven. On the way there, I made a call to my then girlfriend at the time. I remember making a joke to my mom. I said, see, this is the last time I'm smoking a cigarette for a while. You ain't got nothing to worry about. I'm going to quit, I promise you. She didn't even know what I meant by that. We got to the police station, and I walked up to the desk, and I said, hey, my name's Chris Willers, and you guys were at my grandmother's looking for me. You tore up her house. I think y'all want me for something. Yeah. And that was the beginning of jail time, essentially. Immediately, the cops came around the desk. They swarmed me. They came out. The detectives, they made like a big show. I came in again to turn myself in. I've got my mother with me. She's never been in a situation like this, nor have I. They immediately cuffed me behind my back. And one of the most traumatizing moments outside of probably being in the courtroom of this whole journey of incarceration and all that was hearing my mother immediately just scream no. She was just saying, no, no, you can't take him. You can't take him. He didn't do anything. And as a son, her only child, somebody that had grew to protect her, I couldn't even console her. Not only was I the reason that she was hurting right now, but I couldn't hug her. I couldn't wipe away her tears. And it was crazy. I just remember telling the detectives, like, man, please, man, just let me, let me hug my mother. Let my mother hug me, whatever. I just kept saying that. And then I'm going to go. I got y'all. Y'all could take me. Because I was kind of, you know what I'm saying? I ain't want to go behind or through the door with the cuffs, because this is my last attempt at free air. You know what I'm saying? Trying to come up from the water. You know what I'm saying? Once I go behind this door, I'm not free anymore. And they let me, you know what I'm saying, turn around. My mom was able to give me a hug, and man, I leaned into her, and I felt like I was a little kid again. I felt helpless, but it was too late. It was too late. She couldn't do anything. I couldn't do anything. And before I knew it, they were taking me back behind the wall. They immediately put me in like a bullpen, like a holding cell type thing. And, I go from somebody that is not used to sitting still. If I'm not at work, I'm in the car, I'm in the truck, I'm driving, I'm with my girlfriend, to now being stuck in a cell by myself, looking at walls with nothing else to do. I'm about to go crazy. It's nothing but concrete and steel, a toilet, graffiti on the walls. I can't get, it's freezing in here. I'm sitting here shaking. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was just a crazy situation. I went through booking, which basically they do your fingerprints, your mugshots, all that. They read me on my indictments. And let me tell you something. I immediately started to learn about the law right then, because I'm like, well, I'm about to get arrested, or they're going to read my rights for robbery, and that's it. Or no, I said accessory. No. They charged me immediately with 6 counts of robbery, 6 conspiracies, and 6 use of firearms. Because let me tell you something, when you rob an establishment, when you do something like that, they don't charge you for the building. They charge you with the count or offense for each person in an establishment. So if there's 5 people in the store, or 6 people in the house, or wherever, 30 people in the field, if you were part of that crime, you get charged just like you were the trigger man. Whether you were the driver, it doesn't matter what part you play, because there's no accessory. So you combine those 2 factors, I was screwed. I had no idea how many people were in the place when they had hit it. Never asked, never thought about it. Didn't know. I didn't understand Virginia laws. And I'm reading how much time each one carries, and robberies alone, each one is 5 to life. So immediately off top, I'm facing 6 life sentences. The conspiracies are automatic 10 years. The gun charges is mandatory 3. Each one after that is 5. I'm like, are you serious? Like, seriously. Like, I was the driver. I remember looking at it and I was like, I was the driver. I didn't go in anywhere. You know what I'm saying? I remember even saying that. And I'm gonna be honest with you. Saying that out loud in the cell and just I don't even know. In my mind, I think that I was starting to go crazy. It was like I was talking to myself. I was pacing the walls. I was like, "Yo, I was just a driver. This is crazy. This is literally how I was in the cell." Um, when they moved me to the jail, by this time I was able to call my mom on a 5-minute call and just tell her, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I got in trouble. Boom, boom. I'm gonna let you know when I can see you get visits." I'm crying like a little kid. You know what I'm saying? Because I just want to be with my mom, man. I'm not going to lie, man. It was crazy. And they bring me finally to the jail, and the first place they take you is a spot called the Yellow Brick Road. It's Rappahannock Regional Jail, man. And the Yellow Brick Road, the floor is yellow, the walls are green, and they're all whole cells, right? Which means there's no windows or nothing. You get your meals through a little tray slot, and the only window is a cutout square in the door, and they got to open a flap, just so you can see into a hallway with no windows. It's all concrete and steel. All you're going to see is other cells. But what makes it worse about this situation, the only thing that's in there is 2 concrete slabs and a toilet. And you got to share this space with somebody. You don't know this person. They put me in there. Dude, they put me in there. I guess he was withdrawn off something. He was throwing up. People was sick. So I'm leaned up against the wall and I'm just praying for morning to come, man. Because I had to just get through the night, and then they would move me to the next phase of the jail, where it was kind of like they did like an assessment on you before they finally put you in GP or population. And I finally got out of there, went through the assessment, and then I was in population. And not only was I in population, they had 2 max pods. And because of my age, the charges I got hit with, I got sent to the max pod. And this was when I got my first taste of jail, incarceration. Yeah, walking the yard. So I'm in the jail now. Mind you, I hadn't ate yet. I still couldn't eat the food. It smelled horrible. I remember trying to like drink a milk, and it was in a bag, which I'd never seen before, and it tasted like straight vomit. I couldn't stomach it. So I had opted on just not eating, and that was my plan. But in my mind, I was gonna be able to get. I heard dudes talking about commissary, and I was like, as soon as I get to the block, I'll be able to get commissary. That's not how that went. I still had to wait a couple weeks till my money was able to get on the books and do all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. So I'm trying to get used to the food in jail. I'm in a max pod. I now have a cell partner. Now, the minute I'm in there with other so-called dudes that's going hard or whatever. They looking at me like they trying to check me. I'm not from VA where I'm locked up at, right? They know that, and it's not looking good for me. It's not looking good for me. Mine, and on top of that, for TMI, I couldn't use the restroom, just because I was now in a situation where if I had to do it in front of somebody, and my body just would not relax to do that. I'm sorry, I had to break that down, but I need y'all to know what jail and prison is. It was a sad situation, man. Jail, it's jail. It's a cell. You don't get to go outside or rec yard like that. At least where I was at, it was a piece of concrete brick that you could look up and see the sky, but that's it. It had 1 basketball hoop, and it was a terror dome out there. We play handball occasionally. What I learned quickly while I was in jail is that I knew how to communicate with people, and my intelligence level was decent. So I kind of just paid attention to my environment, and I don't want to say use it to my advantage like I was manipulating anything, but I knew how to move because I was paying attention. That was it. I knew how to interact with certain people. I didn't just try to act the same way with everybody because I could see, all right, he's running this car, or man, this dude, I don't know, he might kirk out. this dude got control of the jobs or influence on, you know what I'm saying? So I was learning about politics. I was learning how to deal with people, but the whole time I was fighting my case, man. I was fighting multiple life sentences. And I remember as a 19-year-old kid, I'm trying to act tough. I'm trying to act hard. I'm trying to act like it's not bothering me. But let me tell you something, man. Every chance I got to talk about my case to one of these old heads that had been in the system or been in front of a judge, I was trying to seek some comfort by bringing them my charges in hopes that they would tell me I'd be all right. And every time I told them I was in there for 6 robberies, they was like, bro, you're not going home. You're probably not going home. Like they didn't have no cut cars. They was pointing out other dudes that was in the block. There was a guy named Philly. He was 16 years old. He brought a pizza man with his buddy. He ended up getting a life sentence. I had 6. I was like, man, here we go. The thing that killed me the most about jail was the waiting to go to my court date to get sentenced. That is what killed me. It wasn't the fights, because somebody asked in the comments, like, was there a bunch of fights? Yes. There's more fights in jail than there is in prison, because there's more respect in prison than there is in jail. People know in jail there's less consequences. It's more than likely just your hands. In prison, it's going to be a little bit more. But I could deal with all that stuff. I was able to get a decent job. I was serving trays, so me and my people was able to eat good. I had kind of got a bunch of guys that click up with me. I was doing all right until I started getting thrown in the hole for fighting and all that. But it was just that weight. It was that paranoia. It was like, here we go again. At first, I was waiting to finally get locked up. Now I was waiting to go to my court date. It was too much, and I wanted to be over. And I started to lash out because I couldn't leave the jail, but I started getting trouble in different blocks just so I could go to the hole and kind of like get rest and reset and, I don't know, just in my own way escape as much as possible, but I couldn't go anywhere. And it was a lot of that. It was a lot of time in the hole. My first stint in the hole, it was over 3 months straight. I learned to play chess behind the wall while another person across the wall or across the way in another cell in the hole was a call out moves, vice versa. I learned how to fish under the door to retrieve newspapers or noodles. I had kind of got tight with one of the guards, so she would bring me commissary down there. I found ways to survive in jail, and I shouldn't have been finding ways to survive in jail, but that's what we do as humans, and I was learning quick, just like I was learning in the streets. And all of this was the combination for something bad for when I did go to prison, because now I'm learning how to get my way. I'm able to get tobacco, certain things that other guys couldn't get. I'm able to get on the phone. I'm going to a visit here and there. Like, different things are happening, and it's making me forget for a moment how serious jail is, if that makes sense. And then, I'm waiting. I'm supposed to go to my court date. I remember I had like 2 months before I was supposed to go to my court date. I'm in my cell. It's 4:30 in the morning. I hear a knock on it, and the guard comes. He's like, man, you got court. I said, no, I don't. I said, my court date's 2 months from now for sentencing. He said, Mr. Willis, you got moved up. I said, are you serious, bro? He said, yeah, come on, let's go. And when you go to court in jail, let me tell you something. It's the most miserable experience, because you're on the way to see the Grim Reaper, man. Dude in the black robe, somebody that could literally unalive you while you're still alive, turn you into a living ghost. It's not a game. There are people making decisions about people's lives that aren't in the best of moods when they wake up in the morning, going through their own stuff. And now I'm on my way to the courthouse. It's 5 in the morning. It's still dark. They give you a brown paper bag breakfast with an apple, a cheese sandwich, a milk, some carrot sticks. You trying to eat it. You're shackled on your waist and your ankles. You trying to eat like this. You know what I'm saying? By this time I got used to the food, y'all. I ain't gonna lie. It was about survival. That milk started to taste good. And finally get to the courthouse. Get in there. I'm in the bullpen in the courthouse, and here comes my public defender. but we know as public pretender, which I'm convinced to this day used to come to the jail drunk, man. I don't know, but I swear I used to smell liquor on him. His tie used to be loose. He looked disheveled. He was a public defender, man. And I look at this guy. By the way, if you get a lawyer, pay for a lawyer. Don't get no public defender. When he comes to the bullpen to talk to me, he's like, yeah, my fault. Your court date got moved up. They should have told you. You need to make sure you tell me I'm going for sentencing 2 months sooner than later. And then he, in the same sentence, he said, yeah, I can get you 34 to 54 years to do. That's okay? He said it just like that. And that's the problem. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing to try to convince kids not to go to prison, man. He looked at me. He was like, yo, I can get you 34 to 54 years to do. Is that okay? First time offender, never been in trouble before. This time I'm a vet, and I never got out the car. And I told him, nah, that's okay. Nah, I'm not doing that. Straight up.